For example, under RSA 75-9, New Hampshire law requires 2 or more tracts having the same owner must be appraised and described differently for assessing purposes if they do not adjoin or if they are situated as to become separate estates. Under the common interpretation of the word adjoin, these clearly do not adjoin and should be assessed as separate parcels of land, but under the eyes of the law, these have been subdivided. They are not considered to be one tract, particularly because there is an entire fee owned by an entirely different third party that goes right across.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Does that have its own map and lot number in the tax maps?
Actually, it does. Yes,
Lot 30.
it does. It does. And also a tax map.
The tax maps haven't been updated, but the assessor has been.
And tax maps are not indicative necessarily of a subdivision. In fact, I really hate to bring it up. Sure. But under New Hampshire law, they have to be assessed differently because they're not adjoining. So for those purposes, it really should have its own tax number. It has been updated by the assessor to have its own tax number at this time.
Yes, please.
Can you explain the relevance of all of that? Are you proposing to count this
This
lot?
has already been subdivided, so it doesn't need to be included in this subdivided subdivision plan. This is actually its own, while it's in the same project, this does not need to be subdivided at the same time as these lots.
But you are proposing to build on that lot?
Yes, but the subdivision, the actual division of this, which my understanding is central, is this map 16 lot 30, which is what the application is for, would consist of these proposed lots 30-1 through 30-9 together with the conservation.
And the frontage on that lot on Second Crown Point is how much?
This exceeds the 50-foot requirement. I believe it's actually,
Well, no, it's a separate lot. It would be 200 feet as a separate lot.
and it does.
It has a
Because it's
It's a
grandfather.
grandfather.
Yeah, it's about,
already has one 200 feet back.
Yeah.
you're right.
I think
It's close to
I think at this point,
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
actually
important.
50 feet.
And a follow-up, if I could, you keep
Yeah.
referring to 50 feet frontage on our conservation subdivision. Can you tell me where that is in our regulations?
That's the lowest amount you guys can approve.
Yeah, that's in there.
That's not what we're proposing, that's just as part of the conservation subdivision, you guys can approve down to 50 feet.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
believe
cluster.
in fact that our frontage is significantly more on each of the lots.
I agree with it. I mean, it is a subdivided lot. I got 3 of them myself. But at this point here, I think what the board would like to see is now the time to clear this thing up, okay, so that the town can have an accurate description of that lot, which is simply what the lot is. I agree it's not part of the subdivision, okay, but something we'd like to see as far as the town, what's the acreage of that lot, what's
sure.
the diameters of it,
Yeah,
they can look with the assessing so that it brings that up to date.
Well, if I may, I'll present this to the board as per the law.
Okay.
Recorded down in plans. If you just go look
For this one lot.
Yeah.
In this one area. I did notice today that you have a driveway access built, recently built, there's an excavator right there.
Yeah, I believe he's already been issued a building permit on that lot.
I think that's all you get.
So that's, okay, so 3.5 acres.
Just one, what was the actual frontage?
I don't think you just said that, but
They've got it. They've got it.
350 acres or something. I mean, 250 acres, 250 feet or something.
Good, I got no problem with that.
Do you just, I don't know if you want to, if anybody will leave this out, anybody wants to take a look at this, I guess, maybe hang it on the wall.
Get it on tape.
No, it's not taped on the walls.
Just like
Right on the board, right?
So let's deal with that subdivision.
yeah, you'd be best off to flip the whole thing over again. So you guys are, just so that we understand what's going on with that, because it's sort of like when you have a large parcel and you're only developing part of it. In the rules, we want to know game plans for everything.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So our proposal is just purely for lot 30, lot 38 is a separate parcel. Not
Before
included
we
in this
continue, let's
application.
show those plans out on the table, we can all look at them.
Sometimes it's just the way it is.
We were faxed or emailed a convention yield plan subdivision.
That's what it is.
Yeah, your basic yield plan, your maps, how many lots, I don't,
10.
it was like, this, so I could hardly read it.
Yeah, I have copies here as well. But the yield plan shows.
No, it's on the second page.
Oh, continue. Yeah, thank you.
So that would be
We only-
five
It's
on the
good.
second round.
Yeah.
The other side.
Okay, and those are with the 200-foot frontage.
Yeah, this is conventional, so it meets all the standards.
Yeah,
The house on the corner, right
first
here,
thing, we just,
it shows that. Is that part of, that's not part of this?
Robert Lovering and Terry Towell.
Suggesting a convention.
Lot 20.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure they're not going to incorporate that.
Nope, that's not buddy, we're gonna buddy parcel.
so before you launch into that, maybe flip back.
Yep. Sorry, I had a question on it.
Yeah, no, I want to make sure the audience is seeing what's going on. Okay, so we've talked about that triangular lot, same owner, on the other side of the power lines, so it's not really contiguous. And they've agreed to kind of give us a design of what's going on over there. Sounds like you're looking for one house lot.
That's just a one house lot.
One house, one building.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the next part of this is that you're showing the conservation layout, conservation development layout for 10 lots. 10 lots, 9 building sites, plus a conservation area on the rest. That's what this plan shows.
Yeah, so everybody can hear me. It's 2 sheets, and I know it's tough, but this shows up all the building lots and part of the conservation here, and then the remaining, this shows the entire 42 acres we're proposing as conservation here. Would be all that, which includes wetlands, there's a vernal pool out there.
So as you can see, this packs the development, 9 lots on Second Town Point Road. But we've already had we've already been able to review this because we had the plans mailed to us earlier, emailed to us, but it does not have any development on 202A, is that correct?
This part of one lot will be on 202A.
Does that mean that there's a driveway there, or?
There will be. No, there's not going to be a driveway on 202A. The driveway for this will also be on.
So essentially, you're basically packing the lots all on Second Town Point Road with this design.
Right, yep.
Okay. And then the rest of the land, 42 acres, I think you said,
Yes.
would be left in its perpetual, the same as it is forever. That would be locked in, and there'd be ways that can be done, either with conservation easement or other ways. That's further down the process, but anyways, this is just to show this concept, okay? So, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I have just a couple quick things.
Yeah, please.
I mean, essentially, what we have is, when Clear Creek bought the property, they come to our firm, we kind of sit down, we kind of try to plan, what they want to do, how to approach it. Where the lot's 56 acres, in the Stratford zoning ordinance, under the conservation subdivision items, it says, I can read it here, conservation development design approach is encouraged for all subdivisions of a parent parcel 20 acres in area or more to facilitate the implementation of the goals of the master plan. So rather than just come in strictly with a conventional subdivision where there is this much land, it's possible to do affordable housing and meet all the criteria under the conservation development on an existing road as opposed to building a new road, adding more impervious surface, like maintenance for the town, etc. This would actually keep everything along an existing road, and we're trying to actually conserve some of the land. We figured this might actually be a little bit better than just cutting up the entire 56 acres and just building regular house lots across it. There is, I don't know how many of you guys have been out on some of this piece here, but our survey crew had been out there for weeks. It took basically a month to get all this data located, all the wetlands and ledge outcrops and so forth. But there's quite a bit of hunters that go up through the power lines there, and lots of deer sign down here. They come in through this property, and then there's also another conservation piece about 200 feet from the power lines here, a little further down 202A. But it's pretty clear there's a lot of wildlife activity through there, and it's pretty clear that hunters do go out there and use the land. And the deer seem to use the power lines as sort of a corridor to get around. It makes sense because it's not, it's not very wooded or hilly or ledgy. Makes for a good opportunity for deer to travel.
Any comments from the board? Or
Yeah, you want to talk about the parking lot you're proposing?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, that was going to be one of my next comments. Another thing that Clear Creek is willing to do, not only is to conserve this land, but he's willing to donate it, whether like flat out for either the town to pick up or any interested party, and then it could still have a conservation easement on it as well. And then so, as a product of doing the conservation parcel, he is at his own cost willing to also provide public parking access. So he would build out a nice driveway and a parking lot. We have been meeting with DOT. They've been out on the site and walked the length of all of it. They will approve a driveway access right here on 202A, and it would provide enough parking spaces for anybody, any members of the public or the community, if you wanted to go there, park there, hunt, whatever, climb trees, whatever you want to do. You have an area to go and park your vehicles, and he would pay for that at his own cost.
Okay.
Done.
Could you help me out here, this, going back and forth with the table and everything, starting with lot 30-1, proposed 30-1, can you just go right down 30-2, 30-3, and just do the frontage on each of those?
Right, sure, yeah.
I know, but you gotta bounce back and forth to it.
Yeah, I have them written down, so I can make it easy for you. If we all want, if everybody's looking, we'll start on lot 1 and go all the way down through lot 9. So starting with lot 1, the frontage is 169.24 feet. Lot 2, 101.27 feet. Lot 3, 102.26 feet. Lot 4, 106.52 feet. Lot 5, 101.54 feet. Lot 6, 115.95 feet. Lot 7, 147.33 feet. Lot 8, 129.72 feet. And then the last lot 9 is 100 feet even on Second Crown Point Road. And again, that lot would actually have some frontage on 202A because it's the last lot.
Thank you, it's very helpful.
Okay,
I do have a comment. I do have a comment I'd like to. You had made mention that in the conservation subdivision notes, that the master plan was encouraging conservation subdivision, which it does. But it also has some protective wording throughout it. I went through and I just kind of highlighted a few places. We're going through the master plan. Just bear with me for a minute. It's a pretty big plan. Policy goals of the 2001 Stratford Master Plan. Sustain and enhance the agricultural and sylvan character of the town by protecting the natural, historic, and archaeological resources of the landscape. Allow for a range of housing opportunities in a manner that protects the environment and enhances the town's rural and agricultural character. I would contend that Second Crown Point is a very rural part of our town and very, very agricultural part of our town. As I go through, give me 1 second. Under 3.22, recommendations, review and modified site plan, review regulations to protect scenic features such as trees, hedgerows, stone walls, limit hillside and roadside development. Down at number 322, line 6, continue to identify roads that may be appropriate to designate as scenic roads. want to put all the information out. Under recommendations 332, consider the town's rural character when upgrading existing roads. Excuse me, that's not relevant. Review under 4, review zoning and subdivision regulations regarding setbacks to preserve the rural character of the rural road character in town. Require a landscape plan and good vegetative buffer for developments subject to site plan and/or subdivision regulations. Land conservation. Over the last 10 years, Stratford, this is 4.1 if anybody wants to write that down. Over the last 10 years, Stratford has continued to lose active agricultural acreage. This has been caused by a combination of some farms closing and from new development. The soils occupying our prime agricultural lands are deep to bedrock, reasonably well drained, and are located on gentle to moderate slopes. These characteristics also make them desirable from the standpoint of ease of development. Despite this, the town still retains a very rural agricultural appearance. Due to the continued presence of rolling open fields, farmsteads without buildings and tended woodlands, all in fairly large tracts, these large parcels not only contribute to the overall character, but also provide important unfragmented habitats for wildlife, as you were saying. And one more, I believe. I'm sorry, just bear with me. I know this makes the evening longer, but...
Don is reading this from the
This is from the master plan.
Stratford Master Plan. That was a community effort about 15 years ago. So there were over 100 people in town that participated in crafting this. And so our zoning and everything is supposed to reflect the wishes of the town.
Here it is right here, the last one. Excuse me. The conservation subdivision focuses on the conservation of usable, significant open space while allowing development to take place in the case of an agricultural parcel. Efforts would be made to retain the original farmhouse and open space along the road and have the homes be situated at the rear of the lot. In that way, an original farm setting is preserved and Stratford's rural character is maintained along the public ways, rather than have the entire parcel chopped up into 2-acre lots. These subdivisions also have been shown to effectively slow sprawl effect of traditional subdivision development. Help the community retain more open space and still provide the landowner opportunity to develop their property. So there's the point that I'm trying to go with this is that although that is a nice plan, I don't know that it fits what we really are looking for, the best piece of land in that parcel. Not the wetlands, not the ledgy, rocky places. The best piece of farmable soil is what you want to develop. And I just don't know that that really fits what we're looking for in a conservation subdivision.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Well, if I may reply to that, I believe the master plan calls for usable significant open space, and while this may not be necessarily land that would have a building permit allowed on it, that does not mean it's not usable, valuable conservation space. The wetlands are significant in the state of New Hampshire. We have a lot of benefits. There's still recreational benefits that can be had, and while it may not have significant frontage along Second Crown Point, there is significant frontage along 202, which is an even more publicly used road. So I would consider it actually is extremely in tune with the master plan.
Okay, so
I disagree with you totally.
so we have a couple of different viewpoints here, but Don,
I'd like to sort of pile on with my colleague here. I think it's important that we all, we understand this stuff because we work with this all the time, but the general public should understand kind of the flow of how stuff happens in land development. I think it's really important. The master plan is a kind of guiding document. And that from the master plan flows our subdivision regulations, frontage and minimum lot sizes and all that stuff. And then people come in front of this board with applications, and it's our job to see how that fits. And right now, we're just sort of, hey, let's talk about this. This is non-binding.
Right.
So what we're doing is talking about it and expressing opinions, hopefully to the applicant, that they will hear what the planning board has to say. So, having said that, I want to go on to Don, because the introduction in our master plan says, a master plan is a document intended to be a reference guide for a town's decision makers as they make, interpret, and implement laws and procedures in the town. Though authored and adopted by the planning board, the master plan attempts to reflect the public's desire on how the community should grow and face the challenges of growth in the region. This document can and should be effectively used by everyone in the town to ensure consistency in policy and action. The next, I'm going to do the Don thing here. I highlighted mine though. Good. Vision statement. We, the residents of Stratford, value the distinct rural character of our town. Okay? And page 9. Throughout the community involvement process, residents express concern for the preservation of the town's rural character. That statement is all the way through this. People come to Stratford and live in Stratford for the rural character. And from this board member's perspective, I cannot speak for anybody else, but this individual board member went out on 2nd Crown Point Road and paced off 100 feet. Bang, 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 bang. Those are bowling alleys. They do not do anything to help the rural character of this community. And based on what I see right here, I would be totally, adamantly against this proposal. Now, the conventional development, fine, do it, do it. But the problem is that these lots, I'm still looking for that 50-foot thing, but that's okay, we'll find it eventually. These lots just, when you start putting houses, you just stand there on 2nd Crown Point Road. I took and I drew a big line across the dirt, and paced off 100 feet, did another line, did another line, did another line, and tried to imagine houses there. And that is not the rural character of Stratford. And so, as it sits here, this particular board member is adamantly against what's being proposed.
Okay, thanks, Don. Good. So before we get too far into this, I think you have an alternate plan to show us. And
Yeah.
why don't, we should really show that thing. This is their conservation development layout.
Oh, Charlie, if I may just, something else that's really important. The part of conservation development is, hey, we'll give some land to the town and put it in conservation if we can get an increased density. In other words, more lots, shorter frontage, different dimensional requirements.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what our job is, to strike that balance. What is fair and what is reasonable versus what is being given to the town, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's important that everybody understand that. Sorry.
No, this is good. So,
Would you like a brief overview?
yeah, this would be great. You know it would be, I think, very helpful if somehow you had competing map or side-by-side maps that show the whole property with the layout. If you have something like that.
I don't have another spot to prop it to.
Right.
But
I can
anyways, go through this.
I'll deal with the upfront of the lots that are on 2nd Crown, and then the second page, we can look at all the lots that go down to.
Just a quick question. Is this your yield plan?
This is our yield.
This is the yield plan?
So we did both. We did
Yeah,
both.
I just want to make sure it's the one that I saw, and I'm familiar with it.
It's as submitted.
This is the yield plan, but this is also the layout with the conventional development.
Right.
The yield plan shows what they can do under the rules and regulations.
Right, these have, 200 feet frontage, 2-acre
Let
lots.
everybody sit down and let's give this man a chance to speak here. All right?
Okay, so basically, as he was suggesting, what we
Wait,
did.
hang on a second. Let's just get everybody settled down.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead when you're ready.
All right. What?
Good. Okay.
Undivided attention.
So anyway, this set of plans we prepared in conjunction with the conservation subdivision application. Because under the criteria, one of the things that the board can request is to see what a conventional subdivision would look like with the same piece of land. So this is actually a contrast from what we'd be proposing conservation subdivision. This would be conventional, which means that all 56 acres would be privately owned, and the lots would be cut up into larger sections like this. And then, so now, this 42 acres, and I'll flip the page here so you can see, would actually all be housing lots as well, as opposed to the conservation. Although on this last piece, this would be much larger because there's a big section of wetlands, so this last piece would end up at 17.75 acres because we have to have a building envelope large enough to support a house.
You would still have a house on that
We'd
lot.
still have a house on a lot, but it would have to be large because the wetlands are unbuildable. So not only that, but we have to adhere to the setbacks from the wetlands. So. And essentially, this.
How many lots do you have in the conventional?
Yep, that's what I was going to
Okay.
So essentially, we have 5 lots on Second Crown and 5 down 202A for a total of 10 lots. So this would be the same number of lots configured differently. This would be meeting all the criteria for conventional subdivision, which means that if everything is provided as per the checklist and we were to submit this as an application as opposed to conservation, then as long as we meet all the criteria set forth in the zoning ordinance, then we have to approve this. The conservation, the subtle differences, obviously this is less dense, which some people may appreciate. The setbacks are less restrictive on the conventional. With the conservation, we have to adhere to a 100-foot setback from all the roads and all the abutting parcels. So if any houses are going to be in the previous format, they would have to be set back 100 feet from any road or abutting parcel. In this case, the setback would be 40. Everything becomes pretty standard as far as anything that you would find in the zoning. As far as setbacks from wetlands, is all the same. Setbacks from the roads are 40 here instead of 100. And then the side setbacks would be 25. In the conservation, they would only need to be 10 feet. So, in a nutshell, just so that's not all sounding confusing, what they're pointing out is, based on this yield plan that we've generated, we're showing a conventional subdivision for 10 lots with no conservation land, and they would all just be privately owned individual building lots.
I have a question. Do you got your driveway permits for all those lots?
Wait,
Go, sir, Gary. Oh, there's one and two.
I can speak to that. I do have them listed on here. We have already spoke with the road agent, Greg Messenger. He would approve 5 driveways on Second Crown Point Road, and New Hampshire DOT will approve 3 driveways on 202A. So we would end up sharing 2 of the driveways.
So I got a couple. So do you see what's going on here? The owner of this land, according to our zoning, is able to put in 10 house sites on this property. Okay? On one hand, you end up with 5 house lots on 202A and 5 house lots on Second Crown Point Road. On the other hand, you end up with 9 house lots on 202A. And, Second Crown Point Road. So you have, on one hand, you have 10 houses. The other hand, you have 9 houses with a 40-acre parcel that's left as open space.
Conventional method is larger frontage and larger lots.
The conventional subdivision has to have at least 200 feet of frontage. So that's why it's, 5 lots there instead of the 9. On the other hand, with conventional, they can build as close as 40 feet from the road. And often that's the way it ends up because the driveways cost money. So you end up with the houses right on the road. 5 houses. There's no way around that. So that field is gonna probably get built on anyways, okay? With conservation development, they have to put the houses at least 100 feet back, and we could work with them. They have to actually design the building envelopes, and the board can work with them on that design, where those end up. So there's a little more wiggle room on our part to hopefully fit that in a little better. I mean, I think it's, for the conservation minded, it's between a rock and a hard spot. But you're gonna end up with development in that field anyways. Do you opt for tighter development on that, push back towards the woods, but then you have a 40-plus acre parcel that's left forever open space? Or do you end up with the house lots spread all over the place and building bowling alley lots no matter what? So
we're just talking 9 houses
yeah,
on either plan.
actually, I put you on to ask questions. So why don't this is a good time to ask questions. Why don't we open it up? So, did you want to ask?
I did, so on either plan.
Just state your name.
Name
State
and
your name.
sorry.
Thank you.
Martha Carlson, I'm a resident of Second Crown Point Road. So in either plan, we're only talking building 9 houses, 10 if you count the triangle on the other side of the power line.
No, conservation
configuration, 10 houses will be constructed, and the other one, conservation, there will only be 9 houses total.
Okay.
So slight difference there.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of discussion on Facebook, and unfortunately, as board members, it would be great if we could just jump in and chime in, but we can't.
That's
I
what
would
I
have
wanted
loved
to
to,
clarify.
and the same things happen with the school board, with the Facebook stuff, and the moderator,
I don't want
Go
to
ahead.
take more questions because the night's going to be moving along. Yes.
I'm Walton resident. On the first plan, when it was the 9 on Second Crown Point, what were the acres of each lot?
Each lot will be approximately 1 1/3 acre. The one on either end will be larger. This one would be 2.3 acres, and this one by the power lines will be 1.8 acres.
And don't forget that's kind of the point of conservation development. You're shrinking the footprint of the impact so that you can conserve a block of open space. That's the point of it. Now hopefully, what's difficult is trying to get that block of open space on the right land. That's the hard part. There's another question here. I'll get you a second.
You mentioned,
Sir, your name is?
my name is Glenn Karen, I'm Second Crown Point Road
Thank
also.
you.
You mentioned the look of Stratford, and you mentioned something about archaeological sites. Now, the triangular piece has an old foundation on it from an old farmhouse. Is that considered archaeological?
There is archaeological value to that. That one is kind of outside of this.
Yeah, that's not for discussion here. We're only talking about this piece right here.
But
you can bring that to the.
no, we should. Do you guys know where the location of that is? And that probably should be on the plan and can it be?
I don't, because this plan is prepared for this lot, not that one.
There's nothing there anymore. Like, there's no foundation, there's no remnants of it.
This is Al Webster, right?
Well,
Al Williams, okay, so make sure, did that answer your question? No. What? Do you, can something be done about that?
Last fall, so I don't know what the hell.
So let's, plan board ought to keep that in the back of their minds. Jim.
Jim Russo, resident. So we're looking at it essentially right around 1,000 feet between 202A up to the power lines, correct?
Yes.
And 100 foot per entryway. Is there any reason why the buildings could not be set to the back of the lots?
There isn't any reason that they couldn't be. I mean, as far as what we have showing here today, I mean, it might be difficult to see from back there, but we're showing the building envelopes, which is basically if you take all those setbacks and you stay away 100 feet from the road and so many feet from the sideline, this is the area you can build. And so there isn't any reason why they couldn't build to the back of the lot.
Can you show where the current wood line is there?
You want to take a mark?
Those lines there?
Okay, so the green here, this is the tree line back here, existing. So this is all open.
So it's about halfway down the lots, is the tree line.
but this section,
About 200, it's about 200 to 300 feet back is the tree line from the road.
this section here is all wetland, is that correct?
Yes.
So
The
couldn't,
blue, all the blue.
couldn't do that on these couple lots here. They would still have to be closer to the road
Right.
because of the wetlands.
But in the ones where there aren't wetlands, we could get those building envelopes pushed back perhaps to the tree line or beyond.
Yeah, there's
Is that
nothing
correct?
preventing the houses from going back there on at least 5 of the 9 lots.
And has there been any archaeological, has there been any discussion about maybe planting hedging, any kind of road or noise barrier for the lots as well as for the aesthetics of the properties?
To be fair, this is the first meeting.
This is
We're
the
starting
first
the
meeting.
discussion on all this three.
But that is, I'm glad you brought that up, because that will be part of the discussion. Once the plans are accepted for review, for consideration, then there'll be a process to
Got
address a lot of these things, just like that. Very good point. And we'll get you next, okay?
My name's Joe Laird, and I live on Second Crown Point Road. They cut down the trees right along Second Crown Point, so whatever planting you got rid of.
If I may, I have an answer for that, and I have some letters here. Greg Messenger actually asked, the road agent asked Alan while he was out there if he could get rid of those trees because he was assuming they were going to be a problem. So the road agent in town is the one who actually requested those trees removed. I have letters from him at the board would like to see those.
Well, I'd like to see
Was
that on
that,
the file.
Is that every one of those trees? Is that the request? Because there was I noticed a large white oak there, and that was really a shame to see that.
The white oak that was closest to where the field opens up was kind of hanging over this way. If the limbs had fallen, they would have gone across the street, taking out the power lines. That was one of the ones that he did request that we take down. And all that
I
was
saw it on the ground, so I didn't see, I
Yeah.
didn't look at it closely when I was standing. Okay, so they have submitted a letter here, just to answer Joe's, it's from Greg Messenger. In an effort to avoid an expense to the town, I requested that 10 to 12 large trees be removed from the side of Second Crown Point Road. This has been done at the expense of Clear Creek Builders.
I think more than
10 or 12.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously afraid to cut trees on his own property, but there are certain specific trees I think that people saw there that he was concerned about, and that he wrote that letter to that effect on those specific trees.
Oh, yeah,
The trees would have helped hide all that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, again, when the road agent asked if it could be done, he saved money for the town.
He asked for 10 to 12. Wow.
Sure.
Okay, so Don, I'm going to get your question.
I have two questions.
Go ahead,
Do the comments first, and I'll hold my question.
All right, good. Sir,
Yeah, a couple of quick questions.
just to
My
get
name's
you
Amaral, Second Crown Point.
last.
First Crown Point, sorry. Of the conservation land that you've identified there, how many acres of that is considered unbuildable by the town zoning? So wetland, exposed ledge, inadequate soil depth.
Great question. Great question. We'll eventually get to all the details. This is a good place to ask that.
Okay, so, let's see. So I'll just go through the numbers here. The total area in the conservation parcel is 41.99 acres for 1,829,000 square feet. Of that area, the buildable portion is 1 million square feet, and the non-buildable, which would be steep slopes, ledge, and wetlands, are 800,000 square feet. So that's about, close to half.
All right, so what are those numbers again?
Yeah.
Buildable is what?
1,030,722 square feet.
700.
50,000 square feet per acre roughly.
43,560.
And how many acres?
I think he's doing.
All right, so this would be good information to have it on the plans, like in acres, okay? And percentages. Because we.
Oh, yeah, I did have it up here, it's 23.66.
Okay, that's what I just got,
Non-buildable
25.
or buildable?
That is the buildable.
Buildable, okay.
23 out of 40, 42?
Yep,
23 out of 42 is
Okay,
And
then,
so
what is the non-buildable?
Do you want the square footage or half the acres?
Yes.
No, acreage.
18.33.
18.33.
Can you show us where that is?
Yeah, I can give you an idea. Again, there's two sheets because the piece is so big. But from back there, anything in blue here is wetlands. We have these shaded areas of gray. These are all ledge. And then there's topography shown here that shows you like steep slopes. Anything with the tight line work shows an increase in slope over a smaller area. And this gives you more of the overview. So this is all wet here on the end, so that's non-buildable. There's a vernal pool right here. Another couple pockets of poorly drained soil, and then all of these are the ledge outcrops here.
So where would you build on that?
You wouldn't. We have a building
What's a
spots that
traditional
aren't wetland,
layout?
aren't ledge, or steep slopes.
Well, flip the map down, you have sites on that conventional.
In the traditional.
Oh, you want to build another one? I'm not sure if we did.
Costs a lot of money for septic
Yeah.
systems.
Yeah, all right, so show us.
Okay, so these little red boxes are what's called 4K areas. They're spots that we've dug test holes in to examine the soil to see suitability for a septic system. So these spots would be where we have a septic system. And then as far as where we put the buildings, I mean, we just did this to show an example as a yield plan. If we were to go forward with that, it's hard to see, but there's little orange lines here that show where we could build. There's setbacks from all the wetlands, there's certain setbacks from steep slopes. So if they went to get a building permit, they'd have to make sure that they met the setbacks from all those things.
But you have low through ledge essentially to go?
Potentially, yeah, depending on where they want the house and so forth.
There's 40 acres there, so, you know,
Yeah, but only 23 is buildable.
23 is buildable, five
And
houses
I
on 20.
guarantee 21 of it is ledge.
Yeah, could be. But there's a lot of rough land
Well,
out there.
a footprint of a house is only so big on a 4 or 5 acre piece.
Right.
If they look around, they probably could find what they were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the smallest one of these lots is 5 acres, and they're all proposed even bigger than 5. So we could find some spot that fits, you know.
I just know in my yard, I can't even plant a tree without getting that, so.
Okay, I think there's a couple more questions. Yes, please.
Katrina.
Katrina, your question.
So I just wanted to make it from a kind of a local and state landscape conservation perspective, there's a lot of forest in the state. There is not a lot of open field farmlands for what that's worth in terms of your conservation easement, as well as, I mean, no one's denying the importance of wetlands, but they are a protected area that can't be built on anyways.
Furthermore, you do have habitat connectivity because of the power line corridor that can't be developed, whereas the actual woodland isn't ranked as being valuable wildlife habitat, unlike most of Stratford, which is ranked as high value, whereas the field is state-ranked prime agriculture.
I might beg to differ a little because of the vernal pools. I have seen twice Blanding's turtles crossing 202A in that stretch.
Yeah.
Because of the wetlands out there.
We're just
State endangered
off
species, you know?
the state map.
Yeah, so, yes. But anyways, sir.
Ben Udell, Second Mount Point.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if, depending on which plan the builder goes with, does it change the type of house that it's going to build? With the 9 lots right on Second Mount Point Road, I mean, it's such a congested lot.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I mean, then you're going to sell a huge lot, are you going to build a different type house?
Bigger lot?
I think, Alan, interesting. So are you done with the question? Because I'm going to give it to Alan to answer.
Yeah, so that's really, I'm wondering, does it change the plan as far as suddenly building McMansions on these big lots instead of small 2 or 3
Mobile homes on the,
So,
Yeah, actually with that, just because it's right with it, what kind of housing are they looking for?
Okay, so I think there's, I guess, a 2-pronged question here. If it's the conventional development, the large lots, what kind of houses, is that going to be the same as the smaller conservation development, and in general, what kind of housing are you looking, what, how's this gonna look to the community? Because that fits the master plan too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so with the smaller 9-lot subdivision on Second Crown Point, it'd be pretty much 1,500 square foot houses or less. Price range between low 200s and high 200s. If we go conventional, we're talking bigger colonials, couple thousand square feet, we're talking $300,000 to $400,000.
What difference?
I can't put a 1,500 square foot house on a 17-acre lot and get my money back out of it. So it does change the whole scope of the project if we go conventional versus conservative.
So on the conventional idea, if you're putting up a $300,000-$400,000 house, I'm assuming, Charlie said that, they could build 40 feet off of 202A. I'm assuming you're gonna try to hide them off of 202A, because who wants to look at 202A from their front porch?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to go conventional, it changes a lot of things on my end, and I don't feel comfortable commenting as far as where it's gonna go if I go conventional, but it will definitely look a lot different conventionally versus with the conservation development. I'm trying to conserve as much land as possible. I know everybody wants to save the field, but there's going to be houses in the field, whether we go conventional or whether we go with conservation land. So I'm trying to do the best I can to have as little impact as possible to the land. And we'll end up with an extra building in Stratford if we have to go conventional. It'll be 10 versus 9.
Okay. So to kind of summarize this, it's...
So the conservation bill, we are going to put some deed restrictions in there as far as no mobile homes, no manufactured housing, maximum square footages. That's going to go kind of hand in hand to protect that look, as well as the landscape around it. I don't want unregistered vehicles all over somebody's yard. There will be strict deed restrictions in there.
Can you put that in writing and bring it to us when you come back with your next meeting? Because that would be helpful for us, to actually have that language.
Yeah, well, I think that might be something we can, once we get to the second one, I think that's, because you have to know which direction you're going before you put a lot of work into that. But absolutely, that's good news to hear that. And so, once again, just to see where we're at here, and I'm going to give you a second here. Where we're at here is with the conventional development, you're looking at 10 building sites, larger homes, 2,500 square foot, did you say?
Give or take 2,000 to 3,000 square feet would be a good.
2,500, somewhere in there. Larger homes. You can build them as close as 40 feet to the roads. I'm not sure if you want to do it, as Terry said, on 202A like that, but you certainly can do that on Second Crown Point Road.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys follow real estate in Stratford at all. Right now, there's 7 listings available residential in Stratford. I believe there's 4 under 200 or under 300,000 for sale. One of them is a seasonal camp on Waterloo's Pond. 2 of them are paper listings to be built that I'm doing, and the other one is a $270,000 case. So, the conservation subdivision definitely goes hand in hand with the issue that Stratford is having with affordable housing. People like me that grew up here, and I wanted to move back to my hometown, and there's nothing there. So it took us 3 years to find a property that, that would suit us. And I think the conservation is better all the way around. I mean, I grew up here, I've lived here over 20 years cumulatively, and I'm trying to do the best thing for the town, because I live here, I love the town, that's why I came back here. I do care about how this impacts the town, how the final product looks.
Okay, so to get back to the summary here, with the conservation development, you're looking at smaller houses, 1,500 square feet plus or minus, more like a starter home or affordable, $200,000 to $250,000 range. And either way, we'd be talking about, especially with the conservation development, we'd be working with you on building, siting of that, so it blends in with the land, and deed restrictions as to what kind of house will be built. Some architecturally appealing, hopefully not.
Those
something that's, yeah, so, okay, but that's, what I've said, is that a correct summary?
Yes,
Does that
yes.
capture what you're
I have
saying?
a comment.
Okay, John, please.
We have another question.
Comment, gentlemen.
Okay.
I just want to ask the gentleman who builds them, Do you build stick built, are they modular, do you tow them in?
They're all stick built, I don't believe modulars are.
Because I'm just trying to get a visual, and put that in that close. When I was younger, I worked over at Smaller than 5 in North Rochester, New Hampshire, and over in Lebanon, there's a place they call the Dirty Dozen. And there's a bunch of houses, kind of, you know, like that plan is saying, right in a row. Just to give you a visual what they look like.
Yeah.
Just,
What kind of houses are those?
they're small, affordable, like little teeny.
Are they modular?
Case made.
Small? Yeah, okay.
Do you have a picture of what one of those looks like? And then the second part to that question is how many styles of that 1,500 square foot house, are they all the same?
I've got 4 or 5 different designs that we do, they're similar, but they're a little different. I don't want to have the same house 9 in a row either, because that's going to look just as bad as.
You built the homes just over on 126, just past
Yes.
just past the town line.
Yeah.
You know, those are very nice looking homes, starter homes or introductory homes for a lot of us. They're very nice ones.
And I'm going to keep this open, but there's one question.
I didn't. I had a comment actually.
Oh, go ahead.
Before I lose touch with this, it's just a comment out to everybody. The location of this development, the actual location in town, is a great location to have development. We're going to have development in town. Over time, it's going to happen. Our job is to help the buyer, the landowners, and the developers to develop it in a good way. That's not the right word. A responsible, thank you. Responsible manner. That location is close to services, close to the school. It's better to do something like that for the town, for services, than to have it up at the top of the crown points, at the end of the crown points. It's a good location. If you're going to build, it is a good location.
On the other hand, I want to say that this is the gateway to our town. You know, that's not a mile from the town line, and you want to put your best foot forward. And there's a lot of people that live up the Second Crown Point Road as well that would be traveling past these houses, whether it's 5 there or 9 there. You know, we want something that.
I would love to see. This is just my opinion, not the board's opinion. But I would love to see a compromise on your frontages and possibly put less houses on Second Crown Point Road. Open up those frontages and add some over here. Maybe not all of them that are in your yield plan. Maybe a compromise of both plans.
We could maybe work on that, but, and I know you guys are still interested.
No comments yet, no questions?
There is.
Oh, there you go.
Jim Anderson.
Yeah.
It certainly seems to me to consider the abutters in this thing, not having a high density on Second Crown Point Road. The conventional plan looks better, and also with the master plan, the conventional plan seems to agree to the master plan better than
It does.
the high density on Second Crown Point Road.
It does.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
There's one more here.
Yes, sir. There's one more here.
And just a follow-up to that, have you considered a conservation development that fronts 202A instead of the field? Have fewer houses there.
No, that's not on the table.
We can't get as many driveways. It's
Yeah,
because it's
what
a
happens
major
if you had an
road.
entrance way and did a typical cul-de-sac in the middle there?
We're trying to avoid building an additional road that the town's going to have to take over.
We don't have to take it over.
Well, if we do a conservation one there.
I was just curious, that question too, about building a road that's in the town has to take it over. Is that how that works?
If
The
they build it,
voters
the town's
decide whether.
Voters decide whether they want to take over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a question, the town of Stratford has tons of conservation land, does it not?
We have quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've only lived here for 12 years, but it seems like everything at the end of the road, there's just miles of old roads and trails. And that particular piece, I mean, myself, I live right on the corner of Second Crown Point Road. My view is that field. That's where I live, so. I was a little sorry to see the trees come down,
Yeah.
kind of shaded my house. Myself personally, I prefer the non-conservation, just as far as what I'm looking at from my house. Like 4 decent-sized houses kind of spread randomly out there, I think would look a lot better than cookie cutter.
I agree.
Well, it fits that community better.
This gentleman here.
Sir?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you use all that land for homes and these $400,000 homes go in, isn't that gonna raise the taxes in the area right around that, that neighborhood?
Gonna raise the value with all the taxes.
It depends on like how many kids are in school.
Right,
You might
right.
have to develop the school, make it bigger, more teachers. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
All of which, but
Okay, any other?
all of which, by the way, is completely irrelevant,
Right.
unfortunately.
Any other?
I just have a question, I'm sorry if
No,
this was already
no,
brought up.
no.
But if they do the 9 bowling alley lots and develop those and conservation land, is there a guarantee, like, what's the laws, like, what if they change their mind and they want to build on it anyways later?
No,
Can't.
they can't.
Okay.
And not to mention, he doesn't want to own the piece or build on it. He wants to
Donate it?
lock it in
Either way, it
Donate it to
stays
the town?
to the town. or-
Okay.
yeah,
for the conservation development.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's
still.
guarantee they'll never do that?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, same with this, if it was the conventional development, that would be the final layout. There would be a note on the plan that would say this is no further subdivision, either way.
Why does the builder want to do it one way or the other?
That's not really what, we're proposing the conservation, that's what we applied for. That would be the preferred method, you know, and.
Why would that be the preferred method?
Well, because Alan's attempting to make affordable housing in Stratford. Like he said, a lot of the properties are higher value to where there's a lot of people that have lived in town for ages. They have kids and now they get grandkids. And those kids, like Alan, want to move back to town and be closer with their family. And so if those parents, grandparents, don't have enough land to subdivide to give their children, those children got to get into the housing market, go on and see what's available and for real estate to try to purchase. So if we do the conservation style, the houses are much smaller, the prices are much lower, so a young family can actually afford to move into town, as opposed to the bigger houses, which would kind of drive away that section of the market.
Thanks. Sir?
Marcus Cashman, I'm a local real estate agent, actually working for Keller Williams Coastal Realty, and I can attest to what they're saying. Right now, there's 7 homes on the market. I have clients that I represent that want to move into Stratford and can't afford it.
Okay. And what's the market for the $300,000 to $400,000 houses?
There are houses in that price range, currently.
But is there a demand for that in town?
I haven't looked into that because my clients are looking more in the 200, 250 range, because most of the clients I work with are first-time home buyers. And most of them are navigating out of the cities, out of the Rochesters, want a little bit more space. So this price range, then some of those lots, like you said, acre and a half, just people living in Rochester, that's a ton of space when they're moving out of there. So it fits the market a little bit better.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl?
Cheryl Sanborn, resident. Is there anything stopping you as a developer from using the conventional layout and building the more affordable homes?
Yeah.
What's the problem with that? I mean, why not build a 1,500 square foot home on those footprints?
I'm going to let Alan answer that.
Yeah.
So when you get the bigger lots, you see the 2 squares to the left, those are set back off the road. So the further back I go off the road, the more money it costs me. I can only get so much for a 1,500 square foot house, and it's not going to make up the costs that I incur by going
Deeper into the land. Okay.
Those lots on 202A, they all have a lot of rock outcroppings, and it costs a lot of money to get through
Okay.
all that and do what you have to do, and
Okay.
that reflects in the cost.
And we can do it, it's not, I don't really want to develop the whole parcel is the whole point. I'm trying to do what's best for Stratford, but I will go conventional and build every 10 house, every one of the 10 houses back there, but I have to, just because it has to be one way or the other for a cost standpoint, because I'm not independently wealthy. I can't just say, hey, I'm going to build 5 houses, and I'm just going to give away, the rest of this. I mean, when I first looked at this parcel, I thought, what is the best way to develop this? What is the best thing for the town? I know there were many other offers on this property with people that might not hear. They might just come in and say, hey, I'm doing 10 houses. That's what we're doing. I am trying to do it the right way, and if we have to, we're going to go the other way.
Yeah. Okay. Sir?
What are the town regs on multiple houses on one driveway? On when you're allowed to have?
3 per driveway.
3 per driveway.
That's not correct.
That's not.
That's not. It's two, right?
No? There's no restriction.
Oh, well, I was red.
It reads no farm.
Oh, yeah, as far as I remember, it reads no more than 3
That's what I thought.
houses per address.
3, that's what I saw there. I think it's 3.
Well, that can be researched.
I just got a question for the developer, forgive me for it.
Good name for the record, please.
Bill LeGrand, I'm First Crown Point, and I got my both second and first. You want to build as much as you can on that footprint because you're going to make all that money, and forgive me for saying it that way, right? So is it feasible for yourself just to build on one of the roads, First Crown Point?
No,
Or I mean the second Crown Point or 202?
no, it's not. So I'll make less building 9 houses, smaller houses on Second Crown Point than I will building 10 bigger houses. I'll make more if I go conventional, but it's not the right fit for this.
But being a builder too, you know what you're up against, and let's not get anybody in the room when you go into all that ledge and all that wetland area, because you might not be able to get a septic there. You might
Oh, we will. We
not-
absolutely will.
We've already done all the tests it needs. I mean, these little red boxes show areas where the septics will meet all the state standards.
How far is that septic from the road?
Like for instance, this one, which would be the farthest one back.
Yeah, no, I mean the one I'm sorry, the closest to the
Where
road, I
else?
was curious.
This one?
Yeah.
That right there is within 10 feet of the road. That one edge. That doesn't mean the septic's going to be 10 feet from the road, but that's just a suitable 4,000 square foot area.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna put those right on the edge of the road. Just because they're marked there, it's just proving that we can actually build on them.
Yeah.
There are other buildable areas on that lot.
Right.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to buy land to make sure nobody does build. So, that's the question.
One thing, if you go down 202A towards town and you pass the power lines, and you'll see how there's houses tucked in the hillside there. That's similar terrain as this. It's rocky. There's some pretty rugged driveways up there, but people have been able to put houses in there. They've been there a long time. So you know where I mean? It's right after the power lines, after Harmony and Anderson's location. So, done.
Okay, a couple of things. I agree that the choice of conventional versus conservation does drive what you put on the property, no question of that. The question I have is it within the purview of this board, if the conservation subdivision goes forward, that we can mandate the location of the houses on there?
Yes.
Yes.
That is within our purview?
Yes,
Okay.
we can, I believe so, because we will ask for building envelopes and we'll work with the applicant.
And I'm not completely unwilling to work with you, but I don't want to go back in the wood line. I don't want to cut any trees. There's perfectly good space where we don't have to impact the land any more than it already has been.
Do you want them all 100 feet from the road and stacked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
No, I haven't actually measured it off the road, but the hill kind of slopes down, and the idea was to set it towards the back there so we could have a walkout basement.
You're in a lot of fill. You know what may be
It kind of blends right in.
I need to follow up.
Go ahead.
The follow-up question to that, as you talk about affordable housing, I lived in Portsmouth for 40 years, and I lived downtown Portsmouth for 25 of those 40. And I was on the planning board in Portsmouth for 13 years, so I've been fighting the affordable housing fight since forever. I'm curious, and there's probably nobody in this room better to answer this question than Steve Layton. You know every square inch of this town. Can you address that, the land that is being proposed as conservation? Can you just tell a little bit more about that? I mean, how well do you know that land? Is it something that the town could use in terms of trails and hunting and everything else?
Piece of crap.
Well, come on, Steve, I want your real opinion.
Don't sugarcoat it.
There are deer that travel that property.
It's near to travel every inch of this town.
They are. There are. From a hunting standpoint,
Again, sorry.
Yes, no, please.
If you break the rules, when you let them do these 9 that are 100 feet apart, 100 feet
Essentially breaks, it
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
break the
no,
rules.
no,
I thought we had 200 frontage requirement.
You have two ways to go. You can do conventional development, or you can do conservation.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about the conservation development. When more builders come into town and want to do these narrow lots, you know, if you let one move.
If you set a precedent.
There's
Down the
narrow-
road, right.
No.
Right.
There's narrow lot, as you can see, even with the other development, there's narrow lots. It's more the way the thing lays out.
Not as narrow. I mean, 1 acre lots,
Right.
1 point something.
Part-
What is it? We need to have 2 acres?
Two buildable acres.
200 feet of frontage is what is really
Our rules.
the rules, 200
That's
feet
what
of
I
frontage, 2 acres of land, 2
Okay.
acres of buildable land.
So the rules will be broken for the conservation.
Not broken.
area.
They're not broken.
This was voted in by the town
This is-
to have these,
Yeah,
these rules.
The rules are.
Right.
Let me try this.
but he's changing what we voted in to.
No, Charlie, let me try this.
In a way, you're
Because his
correct.
grandfather is over.
No, stop, time out.
You know what I'm trying to
I mean,
say?
I do, and I think where the confusion lies is that, and I'm gonna use just probably a little too blunt language, but this is, if he comes in and says, I wanna do a conventional development, here's my land, and this is what it looks like, I got 10 lots, and it's got 200 feet frontage, and this and this and this. Conservation development is kind of like, I want to do something different than what you guys do, so what you guys require, 2 acres and 200-foot frontage. But in return for that, I'm going to give you a big chunk of land, so let's make a deal.
So not everybody will offer a deal like.
No, not at all, yeah, we've had other people come in
You
for
can go either way.
conservations.
And that's what they're here, is they're
That's
trying
right.
to feel out what's the way to go before they.
And I think it's really important that you understand that this is not the final plan.
Right.
There's negotiations that's gonna go on.
Sure.
Because right now, if somebody made a motion to approve or deny, and I'd vote against this in a heartbeat.
It doesn't mean,
Steve,
it doesn't,
wait,
sorry.
Yeah, Steve had a comment.
I understand that.
But in doing the conservation thing, okay, we're supposed to look at what we're actually going to protect, okay? You protect the good, you don't protect the crap.
Thanks for clarifying. Or that we use a little bit more decorum than that type of
Yeah.
language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cheryl.
As the late, great Dave
Yeah.
Witcher
That's
said.
all right.
no,
That's all right.
No,
We're still talking about the.
Charlie, my
That's-
question is, just for a visual, to help us with a visual, what this might look like, tell us about some parcel in Stratford that looks like this proposal. What looks like that?
Don't have.
Barnard,
No,
Wig,
we do.
Trinity, where?
We
Tell me
do.
where.
Do you know where I live? I live on the corner of First Crown Point Road and 202A. And across the street from me, this was land that was owned by the Walton Stiles. That became a 30-plus lot subdivision between what's in front of me. So that's Christie Lane, Jody Lane.
The first right
Jennifer
on Second Crown, on First Crown, first right on First Crown.
Right, so Jody Lane, Christie Lane, and Jennifer Lane are all examples. Those subdivisions went in when it was still 1.5 acre zoning, and the
But 150 frontage.
150-foot
So
frontage.
you haven't got the same.
And it's in
No.
the former field land of that farm.
But there's no conservation easement with that.
Right, so,
No.
but
And
they
there's no
look like what
conservation
that
easement.
looks
There's
like.
small patches of
Okay.
conserved land.
So that road across from your house, go down there and it's cul-de-sac at the end, but that's what that will sort of look like, yes?
Yes. Well, and a lot of, the house directly across the street from me is set quite a ways back from Christie Lane. But the other ones are pretty close. Some of them are pretty close to the road. There's some
It's also a
variation.
cul-de-sac of its own community. It's
Yeah.
not on the main travel road.
It's on a side road.
These are not to be hidden at all.
The big thing is that
It's on the
this
side
type
road,
of
it's not on the main
development
road.
does not meet our master plan.
Does not.
It does not meet our master plan.
All right, so any other comments? Yes, sir.
Kind of along the lines of what he's saying, can you address, it's 2.6.1D, which is in the zoning, is the criteria for acceptance of a subdivision plan, which states that a subdivision shall be in consonance with the master plan. Can you address what power that gives you overall in approving a subdivision? Because, for example, with the conventional yield plan, which is being expressed as being, good to go, there's already several things in there that don't seem to be in consonance between the clearing of the trees on the road and the stone wall we'll have to tear out to stump that. Otherwise, it's going to be a brushy hedgerow that's going to be hard to maintain to the development in the prime ag. How do you weigh that on these decisions?
Anybody want to tackle that question?
Sorry.
Well, I think we all wanted the trees to stay. It's kind of hard to put them back
They weren't our trees. They're not our trees. Like, I didn't buy that land, I don't own that land. I don't say anything about that.
I'm not addressing the trees in particular, I'm just saying.
In actuality, looking at the plan, there's only a small section of that stone wall. So, I mean, the thing is, it can be dressed up and actually look like the field coming to the road. I mean,
Yeah. But just kind of, how do you weigh kind of all those factors?
well, the thing is, they have to meet all the criteria of all of our things, regulations of subdivision, even in these lots. I mean, they proposed these, it still doesn't mean that they're gonna make it to the final stage. There may be something that's gonna be changed because of not meeting a regulation. I mean, they meet all the requirements, okay? Whereas in the conservation one, it's our decision. I mean,
We have more, there's
much more
more
control.
negotiation.
But the thing was, when we developed this and looked into the conservation, the overall concept was to protect the roadside, to develop what we call clusters, okay, that went in, you didn't see them from the road, it didn't change the frontage, you drive up and down the road. You could put 10 or 15 houses in and you wouldn't even know they were there, okay? That was the idea to cluster. And we could give them more lots, okay? We could reduce the size of the lots down, okay? So that they could make it affordable to put the road in to build these houses, okay? That was the concept and the way we looked at conservation development. And to protect good land, not stuff that's going to be protected anyways. I mean, you can't build in the wetlands, so.
It's not even protected, we built 5 houses back there.
Okay,
Exactly.
so.
I got one more comment that's.
Just what's the expected time frame of build? All understanding that you got to go through the zoning processes and all the planning and permitting processes. What's the expected time frame?
Right. So this process will probably take 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, we're not gonna wait that long for a conservation subdivision.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, no, not the design review, but between the acceptance and the approval process, you're looking at a few months of 2, 3, 4 meetings, I don't know. And then there is a phasing process where one subdivision cannot, I think it's 7 lots.
5 lots or 10%, whichever is per year.
5 lots?
A year.
5 lots per year. You guys are aware of that?
Yeah.
The GMO.
So this is over the next 3 years?
Yeah.
Essentially?
2 years, too.
Okay.
I think there's been some very good, really great commentary from and it's good to put this all out. This is the town, this is the neighborhood speaking. I think that either plan is going to impact the field. For sure. Either plan. For sure. You either end up with 5 houses in the field or you end up with 9 houses in the field. Okay? Either way. Either way. If those were the only 2 plans on the table, personally, I would go with the 9 houses on the field, stick the houses way back to the wood line or something like that, and protect the rest of the land. I don't agree that that's crackland. I don't, it may not be the best land to grow crops on. It's not farmland. It's timberland. That there was a nice forest there at one time, but it was harvested very heavily 2 years ago. So you're ending up with a forest that's been pretty beat up. But this town owns land like that that's been beat up and it comes back. Give 50 years, give 100 years. It'll be a nice forest there.
20 years, it'll look decent.
So, And I think that it also connects to other potential conservation that I believe Harmony Anderson, I believe she's in a butter.
On the other
She's
side.
not in a butter. Okay. Anyways, not far, so it's Joe Laird. But Harmony Anderson, I believe, has a conservation easement on her land. So there's possibility of a conservation area out through there with public access, because there's a possibility of parking out there. So over time, that might become something. So that's my thought. That said, taking what Steve is saying and others here, is there a way maybe that we could cluster those houses, tuck them away from the road so it isn't the first thing you say? Because if this goes conventional, you're going to have those houses, big houses, right on that road. Okay? And I think part of what we need to do with the applicant is we need to give them a direction of which way we're leaning on this. We may not get there tonight, I'm sorry to say that.
I think we can.
Maybe we will. But we need to give them a direction so that they can come in with the plans, and then we do the acceptance, and then we move on with the eventual approval process, okay? So that's maybe you call it a rock and a hard spot, I don't know, but
Yeah, something like this.
certainly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, going with the conservation plan of those 9 houses with 100-foot frontage, I know that. I visualize 100 feet, and how wide's the driveway?
Driveway's like
14 feet taken over the driveway, and each person have a mailbox out there.
They're shared driveways.
Oh, those are shared?
They're all,
Yeah.
they're all
There's only going to be 5 driveways.
Oh, I didn't realize.
5 driveways either way.
Okay, well, I mean, that doesn't minimize.
It doesn't,
Much better.
Right.
either way, it's 5 driveways on Second Crown. But that 9 driveways would be.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of integrated fence, yes, and it just, even if you set the house way back, it's still.
No, you have,
Yeah,
either way, you have 5 driveways.
Something like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Either way.
It's all lengths, 100 feet off the road.
I guess, Charlie, as chairman, you certainly have your opinion, and I respectfully disagree very strongly. I just can't envision these lots. If you go out there, and I encourage everybody, go out there, you've got the frontage here, pick it up before you go, and actually walk and look and try to envision houses on very narrow lots. My idea would be, and again, this is not an all or nothing deal. I would like to see personally maybe a reduced number of lots with a little bit more width in these lots, a little bit bigger lots, and I'm not saying this is a given number, but 7 lots, 6 lots that would give the more frontage. Just an idea. This is the thing about conservation development, is we need to come to some sort of a balance between the needs of the community and the wishes of the community, and and the right of somebody to develop their property.
Right. Unfortunately, I'm not independently wealthy, so the total project had to yield 10 houses. We gained a lot on the top of the hill. We gained that Y-shaped lot.
What about if we look at another possible conservation one, we give you up to 12 houses?
I don't want 12 houses. That's not good for the town.
Yeah, but listen to this.
All right.
This one here, we can save the field. You'll only probably see 2 houses from the road, one going in, and go in and put a cluster in the small lots.
Cul-de-sac.
And a cul-de-sac.
Where would where are you guys pointing to on that?
But looking at your best land that you had in your survey, yes. You come in right here, come down this section, get near the end of the field, you can start your lots, come right in, come in here, make a cul-de-sac, just stack your houses in there and go. You're saving all this land here and you're saving your field.
I'd have to think about that.
And nobody would see it.
Well, you can still see where the road comes in. You can still
see it like the road.
So where would my first lot be? Would I be?
At the end of the field.
My first lot would be in the field.
Yeah.
But you'd still be conserving a big chunk of fields.
You go both sides, on the back of the field, just stack them right down around. Take 12 lots.
Can I give you an example, a comparison?
Wait a minute, let me finish this.
All right, go ahead.
Let me say,
That's different though.
No,
Well,
I
it's
get it.
similar,
There's a
though.
point, there's
It's
a point.
similar.
Yeah.
He wanted to put those units right up on Robbins
Oh, I see what
Road.
you're saying.
Right.
And to keep in keeping with the master plan and the rural character, he thought, we talked, and they actually have talked now about moving those back way off the road, down, you can't even see them. If it goes forward, it was just a
It was an
conceptual
idea.
discussion.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing that might work,
And in that case, that was on Province Road, which is, that's a historical road. A historical road.
All right, so we're, Joe.
I just thought I'd say
That's our
that
butter.
Second Crown Point Road and First Crown Point Road are also historical.
I agree.
roads. And in fact, goes back to 1760 for First and Second
I
Crown.
agree. I think it's even earlier, John. First road in town, Second Crown Point Road.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Just
Yes, sir.
a quick question on the map. I mean, he says that he has to build 10 houses one way or the other, but,
Right.
or 9 houses, but 9 houses at 200 grand is 1.8 million, and 5 houses at 400 grand is 2 million. I don't see why if you're building expensive houses, you need all 9.
Because
They
it
cost
costs
more.
Are you in the construction business?
Sorry, you make a markup on
He's
the
already, he's already paid the land surveying for $50,000 just to get to this first meeting.
Trust me, I'm really good at the math, because the math at the end of the day is how I feed my family and how I make this whole thing work.
Yeah. I think, you know, that's his business, I guess.
It's from a taxpayer standpoint, I'm looking at a whole lot of cheap houses with a bunch more people.
Cheap's kind of a harsh word, though.
It is.
Really,
You know,
Yeah, we don't like crap, and we don't like cheap.
No, I think it's.
So,
But in fairness, I think, we don't know exactly what Alan is proposing, but I would say for the next meeting, it would be great to have some photograph, something that would maybe show that, one way or another. Of the house.
I don't think that's
The houses are in
necessary.
line, aren't they?
I don't think it's necessary.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. What he does, what he builds on there is his business. That's my opinion.
I think if it goes to conservation development, I think that the town should have a say in what goes in. Just backing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, and also where we're located.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Joseph Dow, we live on like 1 mile up the road for this proposal here. So I guess my question is to the contractor, putting a house 25 feet off the road versus 300 feet off the road, it must be a huge difference.
Sure.
Sure,
$200.
275 feet of road.
Right, you gotta put in driveways and you need fill and all that, it's, like, so it's,
Yeah.
Well, with the conventional that they have, they could put the houses on Second Crown Point Road,
Closer.
40 feet off the road. They could do it on 202A, I don't know if it'll all work that way.
Right.
but yeah.
On Second Crown,
Twice different.
40 feet off the road. Whereas with the conservation development, the planning board, we'd have a much more of a negotiation there to tuck those houses back off the road.
But he's already said that he really doesn't want to push them too far.
Yeah, because it's gonna cost
Well,
you
it's
cost
$100 grand to push a house.
No, but I
Well, it's not about, I don't want to cut more trees, like, they already destroyed that lot before I bought it 2 years ago. I don't want to impact that back parcel anymore. This is the least impact to the land.
Right,
That's the
the
idea.
way you got it, though, you would put the houses perhaps tucked back towards the
Towards
farms.
the wood line was the idea. Like, we're restricted with a few of them because of the wetlands, but the idea was to tuck them back because the field drops off, so we could get a walkout basement, because everybody wants a walkout basement.
So we have Old Gray Farm Road, right up the street, a mile up the road. Our lot's 200 feet wide, it's 5 acres, 200 feet by, I think, 1,200 feet. There's a 50-foot right-of-way that we share with our neighbor that has a 200-foot wide lot, and I feel like we live in a bowling alley. So that's 200 feet plus a 50-foot right-of-way in between us, and it feels like a bowling alley. So I think the 100-foot is going to really be a mistake, 100-foot wide lots. They were driving the trailer park.
Well,
And
five big
I
houses.
feel bad for this guy here, it's gonna be.
Five big houses stacked in that field is gonna look just the same as 9 houses stacked in the field. If anything, there'll be a little more space with the small houses, because it's a smaller footprint. The houses are only 28 feet wide at the most.
Look into, see if.
I don't want to consider, at this second, I don't want to really consider a road. I don't think that's the right way for any of us to go.
That's your problem.
I respectfully disagree, I really do. I think it is a good option.
I know, one of the key things tonight is hoping that we can come away with a sense of direction. So, if we're coming forward to the next meeting, we can have maybe some other ideas prepared, when we get a formal application submitted in the interest of time, not just going meeting after meeting and coming up with ideas. We can actually come with ideas.
Do you want to answer no on plans? So presented to us? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so but this is non-binding and we're not voting, just in the interest of getting opinions and general ideas. We've only got the 2 ideas in front of you today.
Right.
We don't have any other ones to look at.
Do you have any others that?
How do you feel about these?
Can I interrupt for a second? So we're pretty much at the end of the night tonight, we're going to go forward with this if the application is accepted, or we're going conventional next month when we come in. Like, those are the 2 options. We don't want to build a road. I don't want to spend, $300,000 or $400,000 build a road and, putting 14 houses in there. That doesn't make sense. That avoids what we were trying to do in the first place. We were trying to conserve as much as we possibly can. And, more house lots doesn't make sense for Stratford. That is not the right thing.
I will say, because this is all part of our master plan too, is building roads creates more impervious surfaces. You're now rerouting the drainages, the water. It's not like impact free. It is nice to tuck the houses in the woods, yes, visually, but you're going to give up something else.
And you're going to have 5 or 6 additional septic systems back there, wells being drilled.
Yeah. So you're always better using the existing roads, and that's kind of a rule of thumb in a way, to avoid building more roads.
Just conventional better.
I'd take a couple more, I guess. Sir?
I'm just wondering if I kind of am a visual person. I like to see, what you have planned. And the whole thing about shared driveways with the 9 houses on Second Round Point Road took me back a little bit. I didn't visualize that. I'm wondering, is there any way to represent where you feel the houses will go and how the shared driveways will work? I mean, we're talking about pushing all the houses all the way back.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, a row of houses is a row of houses. Maybe some offset or something like that, even though they
that will happen if they choose to continue to go forward with this plan. That will happen amongst us, between us.
Okay, all right, yeah, I just like to visualize it.
You have one more question?
One more question.
My question, I want to piggyback on what this gentleman just said. First of all, I appreciate the venue where everybody, gets, their input. But we've been almost 2 hours. I personally, I've seen plans come before, other boards before, and 10 minutes ago we heard about the 5 driveways. And why couldn't you come with more of a visual what you wanted to do? I mean, that's pretty vague to say, well, if you go to conservation route, the planning board's going to have a say, and then, well, maybe not really, because I don't want to go too deep. So it's really kind of like up in the air. How can you really vote on something if you're not exactly knowing what you're voting on? Because if you had more of a visual, you would know where.
We're not voting.
We're not voting. Can I answer that for you?
Placed.
This is very expensive for somebody to come to us with plans like this.
I realize that's why I've seen plans.
And that's why they don't come with 15 sets of plans, or sometimes. I commend you for having a yield plan that you brought forward. It's a very nice yield plan. So I thank you for that. Because that costs real money.
Absolutely.
So it's a process. Every time we do this with somebody, it's a process. And sometimes those processes are difficult, and sometimes they don't get finished. And when we come here, we're volunteers. Every one of us are volunteers. None of us are paid to do what we're doing tonight. And it hurts my feelings when we go through the process and then it doesn't happen. So we put a lot of effort into coming up with ideas, trying to make it work for the town as well. It's a process. And unfortunately, it doesn't always fit everybody's needs. I think tonight, and I want to commend every single one of you for coming tonight. This is awesome to get a good turnout and get a lot of feedback. And that helps the builder, the developer, the landowner, and the board.
Everybody's comments and questions have been outstanding, so
Right.
really, really appreciate that. I want to say, John, did you have another question?
Just one more thing, yeah, I've been here for 6 years. I've never seen this big a turnout in the time I've been here, so thank you to all of you. That's A. B, I would urge the applicant, and I mean urge the applicant, to please consider what Steve suggested.
I can't.
Just hold on, let me finish. If you will not consider that, and you are staying with this plan here, this particular board member will not support it.
All right.
And period.
Okay, folks, and what I want to say, we're not closing the door on that yet. I'd love to give you guys some direction. I feel that the board is maybe leaning towards the conventional, but I'm not.
We just gotta figure it out. We need a majority vote to pass it.
Yeah, no.
You're the only one who's.
What I'd like
I'm
to
one
say.
guy, that's it, I'm one person, that's it, you know.
What I'd like to say is that I think, and this is a design review standpoint, this whole process, it may be a little bit unconventional, but I'm thinking that if we took a site walk, if you guys could like,
I was going to suggest
locate, so we could maybe get an actual visual. The site walk is for the planning board, but is also an open public meeting, so people can go. But for us to get a visual of how it would look either way. You know, if you put a stake, okay, if we did the 5 lots, or 6, whatever, 5 lots on Second Crown Point Road, I think that's what most people are worried about, the Second Crown Point Road. So this is where the lots would go, the houses would go. And if we did the conservation development, this is where the 9 houses would go.
The only problem with that is that costs money, like that costs time and money, and if I leave here tonight saying, all right, this is gonna be contingent on a site walk where I know there's a couple people that don't like this plan anyway, I'm not gonna waste another.
Well, then it seems to me that you've already made up your mind you want to do a conventional plan.
I don't, I wanna go.
No, it seems like you do.
No, to be fair, he spent so.
I already said that.
I'm here with this.
I already said that.
So you can tell he means it because he spent
a lot on that.
If he doesn't go with this, he throws $3,000 away, because that's what the application fees cost for this.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
He really does mean it.
I really think that we need to discuss this further for a work session, or sort of another meeting, again, a public meeting, but work session or something to look at this a little more closely and talk about. And we're not going to get this all settled tonight. I can see it.
Charlie, I think you're backing up a tree.
No.
Nobody's gonna fall in.
I would recommend what I said earlier, is possibly try to soften up some of the frontage here, and maybe just try to put in a couple off to the side.
Maybe that's.
Then you don't have to do as much on the conventional end, down towards the vernal pools.
Right.
Whether you retain that for yourself, or give it to another landowner, and it doesn't end up being a piece for the town, but if that would make this not so tight, and work it so that it would work better for you, maybe that's an option to try.
But the whole point is the field is, if I do 5 houses in the field or 9 houses in the field, it's gonna
The field's gone, I've already accepted it.
Like, I feel like
I've already accepted that. The field is gone.
The conservation is gonna, the conservation development is gonna essentially look the same. There'll be 4 less houses in the field, but it's gonna be bigger houses that are stacked right on top of each other. So it's gonna be, either way, it's gonna have the same
You're still gonna have 5 driveways either way.
Yeah.
Same number of driveways. The houses are going to be near the road.
My preference is to go with this plan. The problem is there's only so far we can go from this plan without saying, you know, why are we going to bother giving all these acres away when I've got to go over here and do this and then do this, and then it gets so costly. I'm like, all right, I should have just built 10 houses and said the heck with it. I like this plan. I think this is way better for Stratford than 10 huge houses.
I think, you know, either way, folks, the field is impacted. Either way. Either way.
I don't think it's a matter of we're losing the field. It's a matter of the amount of houses in a small
I agree.
Right.
I agree. And that's why I'm trying to say to you, I'm also a builder. You know that.
Right.
Right? This is an easier place to build than down the road. We both agree. That's a fact.
I agree with that.
So instead of trying to put all 9 here and not getting what you're looking for, soften this up a bit, only have to eat a couple over here maybe, and then do whatever you need to do. Try to ease this up. You already have one lot that's, I'm gonna put my glasses on, if you bear with me for just 1 second, please. You already have one lot with 169 feet of frontage. There's one down here that has 100 feet of frontage, but it is a very wide, large lot on the end. Right? You've got a 147 in the middle here. You know, get these closer to 150s.
We can't without, that doesn't make sense to take and put, say, 6 in the field and then put 3 over on the other side, because it defeats the, dollar-wise, I can't.
What if you
I
tried
can't make
7
that work.
and see what you come up with?
Well, the problem is I need, on the 54 acres, I need 9 to make it work where I can conserve the acreage. If not, it doesn't work financially. I can't just give away land that I bought.
Can you maybe use less of the field land and kind of stack the houses, like one in front and then one, the driveway goes to the one in the back, it's tucked back in the woods, and stack them on just part of the field?
We're trying
kind of like what we have a back lot thing, kind of that idea, but
Yeah,
that only allows one.
I know what you're getting at. So the problem is, then with that, I'm adding back lots, and I'm still building super long driveways, and I'm still down one house from if I went conventionally with the bigger lots.
Well, maybe we can negotiate, but
Right.
that's just, maybe you can come up with a design that would do that, and then you can save a chunk of that fee.
Our job is to help. We're trying to help.
Right, no, I understand, but it's for me to go through and do all this, it costs so much money to do. That's why I'm pretty much, we've got this plan and this plan, because I've spent tens and thousands of dollars just to get here.
Consider
So to come back here again next month and go through the same thing where he doesn't like it or somebody doesn't like it, I'm not doing this for 6 months. We can go conventional, it's cut, it's dry, nobody has a say, there's no negotiations. That's it. That's my, I don't want to go that way, but that's the way we're going to have to go, where there is no give and take. And I'm trying to work with you, but we're limited to this conservation plan financially. That's the only way that conservation development works, where I can give away that acreage and not build the 10th house.
I hate to say this, but financial is not the purview of this board.
No, I'm not saying it's your problem. I'm saying that these are the two plans
And
that
I think that's extremely important, because what we're trying to do is to flow from the master plan, go through all of our regulations, and make some sort of an agreeable conservation development. And what I'm hearing is, here it is, take it or leave it.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, we're just about to that point where we're just going to come back next month.
This board member says go conventional, but we're not voting. I mean, this is the problem. And we're trying to get something in here that works for everybody.
There's your 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And I urge you, and I'm not writing a check, so it's easy for me to urge you.
Take a look at this. Obviously, you'd have to lay this out. I can't imagine, you've already done so much surveying out there, but this is very conceptual.
Yeah.
Something like this, with a shared driveway. And say no.
You're on half acre lots then, Joe.
Well, whatever it is, you'd have to figure something out, but you'd save all this part of the field, something like that. Put it on part.
Well, that's similar. At that point, you went that road post and put the cul-de-sac.
And it's a lot in
The road, honestly, the road is out of the question. Like, I don't think that's good for the town. Like, my best interest is how the overall project ends up.
I wouldn't vote for that myself.
I don't even think I bring that
All right, so folks, we're going to, I guess I'm going to close the public hearing. We've had a lot of thank you for the input. Folks, where are we going to go? Us, these guys.
One decision, give the decision.
No, it sounds, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Mr. Chairman? May I? What, tonight was a design review. I think it is fair to say, I mean, if you want to take a straw poll of the board, you take a straw poll of the board, and it's non-binding, and I've done this many, many times. A straw poll would say whether or not this is even conceptually acceptable. So,
We're looking for that.
That's a good place to
Plain
start.
out opinions,
I would-
non-binding, it's not a vote.
well then, Mr. Chairman, I
Would
would,
something like this be favorable, yes or no? That's
Mr.
easy.
Chairman, I make a motion that this,
No.
No
motion, this is
I'm-
non-binding, straw poll.
Asking.
well, I was gonna make a motion to have a straw poll, but I'll withdraw the motion.
Yeah,
with it.
okay, yes.
How about if we do a straw poll? How's that?
I think we can do that. I just want to acknowledge that you guys did go out on your own to present an alternative,
I agree,
and you put a lot of work into it.
I agree.
All right.
So the straw poll is,
Any further discussion on the part of the board?
Not for doing a straw poll.
I would say, this plan as, I won't say even presented, as brought to this board for a design review, just a conceptual discussion, I want to make sure everybody understands that. Yay, yes, you like it, no, you don't like it. All those in favor?
Wait a minute.
Given the fact that there's still some playroom, but just the lot, or this design.
Just this right here.
The lot.
This is,
Nine on Second Crown.
this
That's what we're talking
conceptual,
This
Understand
is not
this.
this or that. It's-
Right.
but it is, he said it more than 5 times,
No,
it's
no.
this or that.
No.
Okay,
It's one approach or the other approach. It's not exactly.
excuse me.
All right. Alan.
Alan,
Yes.
so I tried to get my head around this when you first came to us, and I was wanted to ask you, can you tuck the houses right on the wood line
Yep.
and save that field? You said you probably could.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, oh, maybe that'll hide it. I think it's gonna look like cookie cutter housing, okay? But I thought if we put them way back, it would hide it, it wouldn't be so bad. I live up on the end of, off of Crossroad, Ridge Farm Road, on Second Crown Point. And then I came down the road that day and I saw all the trees down, and I thought, well, what is this guy doing? This is gonna help him, and he's taking away the thing that was hiding this development. So that kind of killed it for me. So for me, I get why the conservation subdivision is a good thing for the town. I don't think this particular one fits the master plan. I do know all about kids trying to move into the town, I'm a landlord, so I rent to them. But for me, I would have to go with the conventional plan.
Okay.
So maybe conduct the straw poll.
We are.
Pretty much the same, it does not meet the master plan, it does not come close.
Then let's be,
I can't go with the concept.
Steve's got the floor. Okay,
I say no.
Okay. Todd?
I have to say no also.
Okay.
I'd be willing to a compromise. I would be willing to entertain a compromise. And I think it's laid out pretty clear.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I'm trying to weigh the board out, and I think Charlie.
My position on this is that with more fine tuning to possibly protect part of that field.
Yeah.
I think that land, open space land it's there's buildable land out there in that open space.
Yeah.
And I think that is a wild corridor. There is value to that, and down the road that there is value to that. But I also feel if we could possibly save that field, it'd be wonderful. Right? If we could put all those houses on 202A for that, great. That would be my preference to see something like that. But that said, if that field is going to be developed with 5 houses, I prefer to see the open space.
So what does that mean? That means
I would prefer to see, if it's going to have 5 houses, I'd rather see 6, 7, whatever houses on Second Crown and have a kind of open space. Perhaps you could take what Don was saying, put a few on 202A and save part of that field. That's another way to do it. So I don't think this is the final.
I think we were talking about this plan.
Charlie,
Says yes, that was a yes to that plan.
I'm still really confused. This, right here, as brought to this board,
Yes.
you say yes.
I prefer that.
Okay?
I do.
So
4 to 1.
that's all we're looking for
4 to
this
1.
evening.
So what's the deadline for submitting a conventional subdivision application for next month's meeting?
It's on the 6th.
So 5 days. Is that
Okay.
No, wait a minute, let me make sure I give you that date correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tuesday the 6th, 5 p.m.
I mean, design review is only just a base application fee and letters. So you're sort of,
There's some of that money that.
oh, there's a ton of that.
Oh, I thought that was gone.
No, design review is just a base application fee and letters. So, yeah, we just need to work out, because obviously
Sure.
letters go out based on whatever you want to come.
Yeah, we can get together on the fees.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's.
So what was that date again, that we need to be submitted by?
6.
Tuesday,
Tuesday the 6th.
Okay, perfect.
next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we'll consider everything and
You
you
guys
guys know what we
think
think
about it and see that.
All right, you guys, for your time, thank you guys for coming out.
Can you show me
Next
where
meeting
it says
is,
50 feet? I don't think it does. I can't find it. And I could be wrong.
Actually, I have a separate.
You might have to take it. Yeah. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not. No, it's mine. All right, Charlie, say you and me outside. This is the way it should work. You got your opinion, I got mine.
Thank you for what you saw.
Or a lawyer.
Wait, so you should come